Coach Nygaard. Thank you for taking time with us at Off the Block blog, and congratulations on being named the next men's volleyball coach at USC. Can you just give us your initial impression of being named the coach at USC?
I think the best way I could describe it is it's a wonderful privilege, mixed with a little bit of anxiety, mixed with there's a lot to do, mixed with I couldn't be more excited for the future, mixed with also my wife and I don't have to move and we get to stay where we want to stay, mixed with I can't believe that volleyball is taking me down this path. I mean, I can remember the first time I actually bought a car, and this was when I was with the national team. I was getting money to play for playing volleyball. And as I'm handing a check and he's handing me keys, it just struck me as I can't believe doing something that I love I get to do, and then it affords me these opportunities. And you know, I can't help but just reminisce a little bit about the things I've done, like playing in the Olympics, the places that I've traveled to, the cities that I've lived in, the people that I've met. And you know, I've been fortunate my entire career, and looking at this opportunity, when it opened up, it was at the right time, and I gave the interview and they decided to select me as their new head coach. And I just feel, the word I guess is humble and privileged and happy and excited, a little nervous, which is always good, and here's to hoping for the future, and we'll see what happens.
Obviously, your wife was probably the first person that you told about landing a job. Who was the next person in line to tell?
Well, my wife was my first phone call, and then we had to bounce back and forth, realizing that, yes, that actually happened. Because at the time that I got the phone call, I was changing my 6-month-old, actually at the time, my 5-month-old's diaper. So the disparity between what was happening versus what was being talked about was quite stark. So the reality check that had to come into play was, had to make a big jump. But as soon as she was more excited than I was, because I was a little shocked, and not that I didn't expect it, but at the same time, you just never know. You don't know until you know. And then when the phone call came, it was just a wonderful moment. Couldn't believe it hit. And then when the reality's there, you never know how you're going to react. And so I was on the phone, and I think I was deadpan, and I said, I accept. And then it kind of resonated in my own head as like, I accept the head coaching job at USC. I accept. That means I'm the head coach. So it was just a wonderful moment. And now that I'm moving forward, getting things motioning, I got my assistants in place, which is great. So the reality is becoming a little bit more of the day-to-day management and whatnot. So going from the conceptual to the actual, and it's been a great progression.
Most of our readers will know that you played at the school across town. What will the feeling be when you coach against your alma mater, and specifically John Speraw?
Well, first and foremost, I'm from the Midwest, and USC, UCLA, I appreciated the rivalry when I was playing at UCLA, and it was always one that steeped in tradition. They were the arch rivals. They were the team that we always wanted to ramp up for and just do the best we could so we could send the message that we're the best ones. But quite frankly, being from the Midwest, it wasn't an ingrained, indoctrinated thought that USC versus UCLA. For me, it was, I was always of the mentality that, to me, you just play as hard as you can against everybody. There was no special game. Every game matters. There was no special point. Every point matters. You don't get up for one game and you let down for another. You're always up. Every match is just as important as the next. So I never really bought into the rival thing. I mean, I guess if I was to make an analogy, if someone from California was to move to Wisconsin and go, oh, the Packers are playing the Vikings, yippee. But if you ask my brother that question, the Packers are playing the Vikings, that's a whole nother level of rivalry. And I don't even want to talk about that. But so that rivalry was something that, yeah, it was there, it was prevalent, and when we played them, it was always a big, important match. We had a big draw, we had a lot of the alum in the stands, and they obviously were a little bit more, I'm not going to use the word violent, but they were definitely, they were licking their chops looking at the competition. And we had some good fortune against SC at the time. And in terms of playing against John Speraw, he and I actually went to UCLA at the same time. He was a freshman when I was a freshman. We both graduated in 5 years, played with him, and sometimes across the net, sometimes on the same net. are on the same side of the net, and we won a couple titles together. And then I left to go to the national team, and John stayed and worked at the hospital using his degree, got into coaching right away. So I went and played professionally, but when I was done playing with the indoor national team in 2000, I left Colorado Springs and came back to Los Angeles, and then I moved in with John and lived with him for a couple of years. So playing against John, John is considered the best coach in America, and as a competitor, you want to play your best against the best. You want to beat the best. So if John's recognized as the best coach, then I look at it as the best challenge possible to play a guy who I still consider to be my friend.
Oh, great. Thank you. A sensitive topic, so to speak, is the person that you are taking over for. Many people would say that you are an outsider for the position coming into the selection process. Can you maybe tell us more about what being an assistant for the last 5 years has taught you about USC and the program and how that will benefit you?
First and foremost, Bill Ferguson brought me in and gave me an opportunity to be a coach at USC. And I have a huge debt of loyalty for that opportunity. He gave me a chance and this was at a time when the AVP was folding and it's going bankrupt. And as a volleyball player, when, all of a sudden your livelihood is, by the way, you can't make any money doing this anymore, and you've got a mortgage and a house, that's a little frightening. And so we had a conversation, and I said, if someone was to offer me a job right here and now, I would quit playing. Cold turkey, never look back. And he said, well, I might be able to help you with that. And then he hired me, and it was 5 great years. I learned so much from him, and the debt of loyalty is there, the debt of being on the inside, working with him. He showed me a lot of things, a lot of great things about how to run a program. The team GPA this year was a 3.2, 3.1. It was the highest GPA on the men's side of the athletics department. Learned a ton about that, the day-to-day management, recruiting. I think the biggest thing I could say that I learned from Bill is what SC is all about, because Bill has always had a tremendous love for USC, and it's been something that's been with him for a number of years, since he was young. So learning what SC is about the last 5 years from a person who absolutely loves it has given me an education that, and you asked the question, what would be the outsider getting this job? Is, well, I've been here for 5 years, and I've been in the environment. I've learned what it takes to be at SC. I've learned what the type of person is that comes through SC. I've had an invaluable education from someone who, through this entire process, has been nothing but professional, which, I don't know how I would handle that situation, and I hope I never have to, but the fact of the matter is Bill was nothing but a class act through the whole process. It was amazing going through this, and there's words that you could say is like sometimes I call him, and I honestly I didn't know how to handle it or how to act or what to say, because what can you say? But my thanks are to him, and he's created a culture here that gets back in the national preeminence, where now the conversation is getting SC to that next level. Well, I don't want to ignore the fact that Bill brought it back to that staging point. So my debt's to him for that. And now my job is to take it from where it is and then push it to the next level.
Let's talk about the next level. What is your coaching philosophy going to be? Each person is their own person. Each person has their own personality and their own quirks. What can we see going forward will be a hallmark of Jeff Nygaard coached program?
Well, it's funny, now that I'm over 40, the formative way of how I would do coaching would be considered a throwback. But, there's some skills that are taught now that I fundamentally disagree with in how it's taught. And it's been an evolution of the game that I don't necessarily understand. It's also been something that when I learned how to do it, it worked just fine. And the guys who are doing it at the highest level possible. So there's some things that go on that I'm going to shake up. There's some things that people do now and that absolutely I want to do that. So guys are more physical, but I don't think that the attention to the fundamentals is the same as it once was, especially when I'm peppering and passing with a guy like Bob Stavertlik on a daily basis, where the best passer in the world, and you watch how he does it, and then you correlate that, or however you want to say it, to what happens today, and you just go, well, that's different than this. So to answer your question, what's my philosophy? My philosophy is to teach everyone the best I can how to play every skill, and then at the risk of sounding too blasé, turn them loose. Because I'm not the one that's hitting the ball. I'm not the one that's passing the ball. That's what their job is. So they're the ones in real time out there taking care of business. So my job is to get them to the best that they can be to maximize their abilities so that we can score as many points as possible and have success.
Besides passing, do you mind sharing what other trends that are popular today that you would like to have your team not practice?
Well, there's been a big push on the speed of the game to the pins, which, if you watch Irvine, they don't go as fast to the pins. If you watch Lewis, they don't go fast to the pins. And those are the teams that are hitting over 300, 350. Now, we had a setter last year who could run anything from anywhere at any tempo. But as a team, we weren't hitting the numbers that was having the same success as the teams that made it to the semifinals and finals, and then, winning a title. And if that's what we're talking about, is having that success and trying to get there, then we have to take a really serious, hard look at the speed of our offense and say, well, you know what, maybe we need to put the ball up a little higher, let our guys go up more athletically, teach them for a little more range, risk control, move the ball around, challenge the block, not be afraid of it, and take better and more educated swing. One of the things that we would look at is how we're going about our offense and what we're doing with it, and what we're going to move forward with, and also the fundamentals of passing. That's something that I learned at a different time that I absolutely want to take a look at. Give it at least 2-3 months of, hey, I want to see if we can do it this way, because I think in the long run, we're going to have way more consistency, way more ball control, and if we do that, then we can run our offense at a higher level.
One thing that not everybody knows, that Bill was the coach of a club volleyball team. Do you anticipate doing the same thing as the head coach?
Running a program?
Yeah.
Running a club volleyball program?
Yeah.
No, I don't anticipate that at all.
Okay.
I mean, I've been at this job for about a month, and I don't know how Bill did all of that. I mean, this is a pretty high demand job, and maybe it's because it's my first year, and yeah, I know there's got to be a learning curve, but I go from moments of anxiety of being overwhelmed to moments of okay, now I feel comfortable that I'm at a good point, and then at a moment's notice you'll get a landslide of things of, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. So do I think I'm going to do a club volleyball program? No. But that is as it is today. Once I get a couple of years in and I'm comfortable and I've got processes and procedures, task lists, mission statement, that sort of thing. And once this is a little bit more of an up and running business and I can divert my energies instead of doing everything and then getting my assistants involved, where, we've got to figure out who's good at what and what the systems need to be. Once I can figure out, hey, Gary, you're going to be in charge of this. Hey, Todd, I want you to take care of this, and I'll handle this. Once we have that allocation in place, then we can start looking at different things. But at this time, I have no plans to start a club.
Well, thank you for the perfect segue to the next question. Can you tell us more about your new assistants that were announced earlier this week?
Well, sure. Gary Sato. He's been around for 3 Olympic teams. He was the first assistant coach on the 88 gold medal team. He was the first assistant on the 92 bronze medal team, and he worked with Alan Knight in 2012 for that Olympic team. And then he was the Japanese national team head coach. I'm going to get this year right. I want to say 2013 to 2014. It's in that range. So he knows a little bit about the game. And, it's funny, we just got back from Columbus, and he was there, and he was officially hired about halfway through where, okay, he's now under the banner of USC, and then we, put the shirt on, and he was able to walk through with me. But he knows everybody. And it's unique that Gary is very Zen-like, and he's been around the game so much that he's seen it all. He's seen all the players, and then for me, it was unique that I go, hey, take a look at that player, and he'd go, oh, you know who that is? And he'll say, that's so-and-so. And then I was there when his parents met. In fact, I played volleyball with his dad up until so-and-so, and he just goes to the gym, and he's capable of doing that. He's a guy who knows everybody, which, yeah, that's remarkable. And that's the great thing about volleyball, too. It's a smallish community, and Gary is just one of those guys that if you're going to attach a name to volleyball in the United States, Gary's a preeminent name in the business. Todd Hollenbeck, by the same token, he's a guy that's created quite a bit of a buzz about himself. He's the head coach at UC Santa Cruz, or he was the head coach at UC Santa Cruz, played at Pacific, and then followed Jonah Carson over to UC Santa Cruz. And then Jonah left to become an English teacher and work with Mountain View Volleyball Club. But Todd took over. He took over the women's team and the men's team for 3 years. He did both teams. And then he focused on just the men's team for 5 years. Last year, he was Coach of the Year. And it's a Division III team, so he has a roster over 25, I believe. And he did budget. He did strength and conditioning. He did plyometrics. He did help them with their classes. He did fundraising, recruiting, scheduling. I mean, he did everything. And he didn't make a large amount of money, which that alone tells me he's driven, he's passionate, he's knowledgeable, he holds a high standard for himself and everyone that plays for him. He's successful, he knows how to motivate people, he recognizes talent. I mean, across the board, if you ask Todd, he's like, thank you for the opportunity, thank you. But I look at him and I go, thank you for coming. So I'm really excited for the coaching staff that we have in place. I think, there's going to come that grind where I'm probably going to feel overwhelmed at times, and I'm going to look, and Gary's going to be just there. He's like, it's okay. It's all good, because he's been down that road, probably at a level that I've never been at. And Todd's just going to be that guy. It's like, stay the course. This is the standard. We're good to go. I couldn't be more pleased with the search and how it went.
Great. Can you tell us if you're going to make any other personnel changes to the program? Is John Shea going to stay on as a volunteer coach?
John Shea is actually, I think, currently looking in South America and Europe for coaching opportunities. Not to mention that he's with Karch. Well, he was in Toronto with the Pan Am team as a team manager, and he's been in the gym with Karch in the women's program at least, I want to say, the last 3, if not 4 years. He's still coaching with SCVC, but I know he's ready to step away from volunteer coaching into another position. So I currently am looking for a volunteer assistant.
Great. What will be the biggest adjustment in the post-Micah Christensen era?
Post-Micah Christensen, Micah is, let me just say this, he is a phenomenal player, a phenomenal human being, and I think he gets to flourish. He was a guy that, he had to learn quite a bit about himself and how to be a captain for a team. He's an ultra competitor. He's physical beyond what you would expect of a guy of his size. I mean, he's not just, if you look at David Lee and you go, well, yeah, that guy's physical. Well, yeah, I get that. Micah has not grown into his physicality all the way. He can still put on some mass. He can still put on some strength. And I don't think he's tapped out of his athleticism. I think he now has segued into the professional ranks, which is where I think he belongs. I think he can flourish. I think playing high-flying volleyball for him, where he can set somebody at 12-6, whatever Matt Anderson hits at, is something that his competitive drive can be matched at with other players. And I'm not saying anything about what he's played with here. Watching him mature and grow. He already came to the team mature beyond his years, capable of handling himself. But now I think, I watch him play and I go, you're just a guy that needs to be a professional volleyball player and go off into the world and play. Get a few Olympics, however many you can do. I think Lloyd did 4. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if Micah stays healthy and he stays driven, it's dangerous saying, "Oh, I think you could play 4," because I don't really want to pigeonhole him in that regard. Nor do I want to knock on wood one of those situations. But he could be a really nice player for the U.S. team for years to come, and it would be phenomenal to see. And it's, to me, a point of pride that I have a great relationship with him, and I just wish him the best. So, what's it going to be post Micah is, it's one of those situations when your top players leaves, someone else has to become the top player. So it's a void, but we've got 20 people on the roster that someone has to step into that leadership role. And once you go from a great leader to the next crop, you want to have your due diligence already done, where you've matured somebody, you've helped have them make some leadership command decision type situations, and then they'll step in and define themselves in their own role.
Of the returners, who do you expect to step up from your experience?
Well, we've had Andy Benish went to Toronto and tapped into the next level and came back thinking, I've seen the next level and I now know what I have to do to get to that next level, which is great from a leadership role. But we also have, how many other guys? We have Michael Malahi and Alex Slott went over to Korea to play in the World University Games. Yeah, okay. There's so many of them this summer that, but they went over there and they get a chance to tap into the next level, which great education for them, because playing college and then going international, you're exposed to just different volleyball, different level, athletes doing different things, different systems, different ways of doing the same thing and having success, and it just expands the horizons. And so when I'm talking to those guys and I'm saying, if you maximize who and what you can and can't be, I think you should and can be an All-American. And now, coming back, they're going to have that more worldly sense of, wow, I've seen some things that, the MPSF doesn't have. Just playing a Brazilian versus a Russian versus a Korean team, you see different things. So they're going to have that exposure. They're going to have real experience against it, and they're going to bring that back into the gym. So, we're going to have opportunities for guys to step up. Not to mention that some of the crop that's coming in this year has exposure. We have Matt Douglas, and I'm segueing into your next question. We have Matt Douglas going to Iowa for one of the USA HP Continental Team deals where I don't even know. I think they're going to Argentina if they make that team, as is Tyler Resnick. Not to mention that Blake Markland played for the HBC, which they've done a ton of winning. Woody Cook just played for SCVC, and they've had a ton of success. And he just came into his own as a 6'1" opposite with a great arm. And then, Ryan Moss he's a guy that's created a lot of buzz for himself in the club world, and I expect quite a bit more from him. He's a 6'7" physical kid.
Well, thank you for saving me that question.
Yeah, I was hoping that was seamless.
And lastly, more because I'm not a big fan of the lack of out-of-conference games that MPSF teams play. Have you set your out-of-conference schedule yet?
Well, we signed up to go to Penn State January 8th and 9th, right out of the gate. And that's, I think it's called the MIVA Pac-12 tournament. So Ohio State, Penn State will be there, and UCLA and USC are going.
Oh.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I know the following year we're going to go to Ohio State, and then those 4 teams will all meet up there again. And then I think the thought is, and having stepped into this role, I haven't defined it yet, but it would be nice if we could bring those 2 teams out for the following year, whether it's at UCLA or here. Something that I don't know if it's in the works. I'll have to follow up with it, but it seems like a great synergistic tournament. And then that gives us some of our out-of-competition dates. And then other than that, we're looking at Concordia and Holy Names as out-of-conference. Grand Canyon would be a great add. And then it starts getting into, are we playing too much and what time do we have off? Because playing 22 of the schedule and then getting into the MPSF gets a little tight. So you want to make sure that you're resting a little bit, because we like to beat each other up quite a bit out here.
All right, one last question to sum up our interview. What will be a successful season for USC in 2016?
Well, winning the national title would be very successful. But how would I define success? You know, at the risk of being the UCLA John Wooden thing, I mean, he made a great quote where success is the self-satisfaction of knowing you put forth your best effort to be the best that you could be. And that's one of those transcendent qualities of win, lose, or draw. If you put forth your best effort on a consistent basis, you're going to walk away feeling satisfied that you did the best that you can. And I mean, to me, you can't ask for a better definition of success. That does not necessarily define wins and losses, though. So, do I have a number in mind? No. I would like to peak at the end, and I would like to put a product on the floor that believes in itself, that's gritty, that's hardworking, that plays through and with the pain, that's mentally tough, and that's physically, from where we start the year to where we end the year, bigger, faster, and stronger.
Well, thank you for taking time with us at Off the Block Block, and we wish you nothing but success as the head coach of USC Men's Volleyball.
Well, let's get this on there, but fight on.